everybody, welcome to Steelers Weekly presented by Geico. I am Missi Matthews. It is time now to get you ready for the Steelers' upcoming game.
We're back in the kitchen, man. It's AFC North ball. You know, we like that. We respect it. It's cool to be in what we believe is the game of the week for the third week in a row. We're humbly honored to be in that.
Hi everybody, welcome to the matchup show presented by Power Home Solar. I am Missi Matthews. A big AFC North matchup, as you heard from Coach Tomlin. The Steelers traveling to Baltimore to face the 5-1 Ravens. Let's introduce today's panel so we can get things started on the show. Mike Prisuta from the DVE Morning Show and Steelers.com. We also have former Steelers outside linebacker Arthur Moats to talk about this rivalry, and Bob Pompeani is back once again with his good luck bottle of wine, keeping the Steelers undefeated at 6-0. And guys, it is rivalry week. I think everybody, as soon as the Steelers won the game in Tennessee, it was kind of like, shoo, okay, got that done, and it immediately turned the page because you knew how much this game was going to mean. So we had to ask Steelers fans to send in their GIFs to let us know how they are feeling. So we're going to take a look at some of them. I started with somebody setting their kitchen on fire since it's hot in the kitchen, as Coach Tomlin likes to say. We have some anxious people, some super pumped up people. I think there are a lot of different ways that you can sum up what game week against the Ravens means. You know it's going to be a defensive battle. You know it. You can throw the records out of the book. So thanks to everybody who entertained us and sent those in. So now it is your turn. We are going to call this one-word whiteboard. Prisuta, you are up first. Give me one word to describe this rivalry. Relentless. I like it. Okay.
Takes relentless execution for as long as it takes under great duress. I love it.
All right, Arthur, give us one word for Steelers and Ravens. Ooh, electric.
Absolutely. Anytime Steelers and Ravens are in the stadium together, you know it's going to be crazy excitement. You have all the storylines. You're going to have those crazy plays that happen. It's always electric, though, nevertheless.
All right, Pomp, what's your one word? Nasty. And you even like darkened the Y on the end there.
Yeah, I did. Nasty, because every time these two teams play, there's always a couple of moments. Hines, Fords, blocks, Ryan Clark with a hit. You remember Ray Lewis on Rashard Mendenhall, Haloti Ngata breaking Ben's nose. There's always stuff going on here, and it's amazing. This rivalry is good because both sides have their share of wins. It's almost identical across the board. So you never know. It's a three-point game, always a three-point spread. That means it's nasty, bitter, and everything else you can throw at the kitchen.
All right, we are going to start with the reigning league MVP, Lamar Jackson. We saw him once last year. The Steelers almost won that game here at Heinz Field. They had 5 sacks, 3 interceptions. Mike, when you look at this team and Lamar Jackson in his second year as the starter, is it as simple as stopping the run?
It is, but the way you worded that implies that stopping the run is simple, and stopping the run against these guys is anything but, because it's a hocus pocus show. I'm sure Arthur can explain this with a little more detail than I can, but Lamar Jackson is constantly ball faking and motioning guys. Oh, look, here goes the running back to the left. Here come 2 linemen pulling to the right. Where's it going to go? You got to make sure you follow your assignment in this game, because they are trying to convince you to do something, and then they're going to take advantage of where you aren't. That's the hard part. If you can accomplish that, however, you can stop the Ravens passing game. Absolutely.
All right, Arthur, we knew last week going in the Steelers' job was to stop Derrick Henry. They did a pretty good job, if I do say so. So what is the difference between what you have to do against him and then somebody who's a dual threat like Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, so we know with both of those offenses and both of those players, they want to run the ball. But with Derrick Henry, it's a lot more blatant. There isn't the smoke and mirrors that Prisuta was talking about. It's pretty clear when Derrick Henry's in the backfield, you know he's at 7 yards deep and he's running downhill to the right, downhill to the left, and it's on you to just, bite on that mouthpiece and make a stop. But when we're talking about Lamar Jackson, this is where it's different, because number one, it's so much smoke and mirrors. The pre-snap shifts, motions, the different ball fakes. It makes you have to play assignment football. You can't just say, oh, this is toughness on toughness, mano y mano. He makes you have to think before you act in that scenario. And that's just part of the equation. That is just to get you in the right place. After that, you got to actually get him on the ground, which we know that's another handful in itself because of how elusive he is with his speed and agility. But ultimately, man, when you're looking at the Ravens offense, you can definitely isolate that run game and stop it, but you just got to be really, really disciplined.
All right, Pomp, you heard both Prisuta and Moats say how difficult it is to stop Lamar Jackson and the Ravens' ground game. So if the Steelers can do that, will it be enough to win?
Well, I think it starts there, as it did last week, and it was that way against the Giants too, Missy. You stop a potent run game, and you make the advantage into your defense. And I think that's been the way the Steelers have done business here. So, yeah, I'd like to see Lamar Jackson win a game in the second half when he's down and use his arm to do it. We really haven't seen too much of that. They've built up leads. Most of the time they win their games when they have the lead. That's why last week was so important in Tennessee, that they had a statement drive right off the bat. I think it's equally as important this week to get on the board, make them come to you. And, you know, last year they did a great job. They only saw Lamar Jackson once, but in that game, 3 interceptions, 5 sacks. They really contained him well. That is going to be the key. And I believe you stop their run game, mostly him, because he's a part of it, not just because he has to, because it's designed for him sometimes. Then I think you have a great shot at winning.
Okay, guys, we are going to take a quick break. When we return, we have some more fan questions to go through. And also, will this be an old school AFC North slugfest? We'll discuss that and much more when we return. Don't go anywhere. There's plenty more when Steelers Weekly, presented by Geico, returns. Welcome back, everyone. Steelers Weekly, presented by Geico, continues. Welcome back to the matchup show presented by Power Home Solar. Let's talk about these two defenses that will be squaring off in Baltimore on Sunday, leading the league in several categories. Just to set up this segment, when you look at it, guys, very similar. Will this be another defensive battle that we are used to seeing when these two AFC North teams get together? Points per game allowed, the Ravens are first in the league, which is 17.3. The Steelers lead in 2 categories, total yards per game allowed and also sacks with 25. So, Prisuta, we will start with you. When you look at this Ravens defense, and there are some new faces, is there a part of it that you think the Steelers can exploit on Sunday?
There is, and again, I don't think this is going to be easy, but I think if Baltimore plays it the way it's been playing everybody else, there's going to be a lot of 9 and 10 men at the line of scrimmage, a lot of blitzing. They try to confuse you into not knowing who's coming, but you know somebody's coming. And the Ravens are very comfortable putting the corners in one-on-one situations. They got a lot of faith in them, justifiably so. But I think the Steelers have the physicality at receiver to deal with these guys, particularly Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster. If you think back to that game last year at Heinz Field, Marlon Humphrey tried to punch the ball out of Juju Smith-Schuster's grasp. Smith-Schuster ran him over and scored a touchdown. Then later in the game, Humphrey tried it again. This time he got the ball out in overtime, and the Ravens recovered. I think Juju will remember that, and I think Claypool was made for this game. I mean, I know they didn't draft him just to play the Ravens twice, but the physicality of this kid, if they want to get into a boxing match with him, the Baltimore Ravens better tread very carefully. I think there's going to be opportunity to turn slants and other small routes into big ones, and I think they'll have an occasional over-the-top opportunity if they can protect it because of the way Baltimore plays in the secondary. If I'm the Steelers, I'm attacking that.
All right, Moats, what do you think in terms of this Ravens defense?
Man, I think Prisuta hit it right on the head. They love to stay up out of line of scrimmage. That's one of their signature calling cards in terms of just the exotic pressures and ultimately trying to confuse you. But I think it's going to be 2 things that are going to be the, I guess, really big factors in terms of how we can take advantage of their defense. Number one, you have to protect against Yannick Ngakoue. This is going to be his first opportunity since he's been traded from Minnesota, and he's a very productive pass rusher. They really haven't had a pass rusher like him since Terrell Suggs, a guy that it doesn't have to be scheme related, can just win. But in terms of them protecting him, I think they are going to have opportunities in the pass game because with their corners, they play a ton of man, but Marcus Peters, he gets real easy. He doesn't have the best fundamentals in terms of keying his guy. You see him get beat on a lot of double moves, and even their last game against the Eagles, he should have given up a 40-yard bomb early in the game. The receiver just dropped the ball. the double move is going to be there. We've already seen Ben utilize that, obviously with James Washington and Claypool for a little while this season. So I think that's going to be a thing that we should all be looking out for as well.
All right, Pomp, another name you could add to the Ravens defense, Calais Campbell, just a large human being. What do you think about their defense in terms of going against the Steelers offense?
Well, they are very similar to the Steelers, like to put pressure, like to pound you, like to make your life miserable. But I think the key for the Steelers, as it's been, Ben Roethlisberger's getting the ball out quickly. There are a lot of underneath things that turn into bigger gainers. I think that's very important. I think if they run the ball the way they're capable of, and the offensive line for the Steelers has been very good considering the guys they've had out. They lost Zach Banner, Stefan Wisniewski has been out. They've had injuries to DeCastro, and yet they've still done a very good job with this. I think it's how they maintain and compose themselves against the pressure they will see. And if they get the ball out quickly, it'll neutralize that pressure, much like teams want to do against the Steelers when they come after you. So I agree with Mike there, and I think you're going to see a lot of little plays turn into bigger plays as a result of aggressive defensive blitzing. And the Steelers can take advantage of that, in my view.
All right, guys, it is time to get to some fan questions now. Triv, you are up first, and this one is from Rose. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but they want to know, how does the loss of Devin Bush affect the Steelers when covering the Ravens between the lines passing?
Well, you lose the speed factor, and that's what they brought Devin Bush in for, both chasing Lamar Jackson and the tight end coverage with Mark Andrews. We've seen Devin Bush going against Noah Fant, against Denver, and Fells of Houston. I'm not sure that Robert Spillane, I don't know if covering the tight ends in his wheelhouse or not. We know he's ready to stick his face in the fan against Derrick Henry, but they might have to get a little creative with the Ravens tight ends, particularly Mark Andrews, who is a touchdown maker, on the top echelon of guys that do that across the league, not just for tight ends. This guy scores points, got to stop him from doing that. And without Devin Bush's speed, might have to get creative.
All right, our next fan question is from Brian. It is for you, Arthur. He wants to know, having participated in this rivalry and knowing the requirements to play on a high caliber defense, which defense do you feel is more equipped to slow the other offense down?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, I feel like the Steelers are, just because when you look at them across the board on defense at all three levels, they have playmakers. They have guys that have either already been producing or guys that are kind of on the new wave of productivity and things like that. So, and what I mean by that is a guy like Minka Fitzpatrick, for example, right? We know who he is. He's been dominant. His track record speaks for itself. But you look at Terrell Edmonds. He's a guy that wasn't viewed the same way as Minka, but he's having a really good season. So I just feel like across the board on defense that the Steelers have the athletes, they have the playmakers that are capable to match up with the Ravens, because the Ravens offense is heavily based on Lamar Jackson. We're not sitting here talking about their receivers. We're not sitting here talking about their running backs. The focal point of their offense is Lamar.
Steelers Weekly is presented by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car insurance. Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews. Welcome to Scouting by SiriusXM, a big AFC North matchup to talk about. Don't forget to subscribe to SiriusXM's Best Package All Access and get your first 6 months for $50. Fees and taxes apply. See offer details at SiriusXM.com/scouting. Joining me, someone who knows a lot about this rivalry once again, former Steelers quarterback Bruce Gradkowski. And Bruce, another 5-star matchup. I do want to start with Lamar Jackson, though. How is he different, if so, from what we saw last season?
Well, look, I think, has he started off a little bit slower the last few weeks, maybe? But, I mean, the guy's an MVP player, and he started off this year strong. And anytime you're playing him, you have to be ready for his best. And that's the thing the Steelers have to be ready for this week. I mean, he's an explosive, electrifying player that can do it on the ground and through the air. So there's a lot to game plan for coming up to stop Lamar Jackson.
The Steelers only faced him once last year. It was here at Heinz Field. They almost won that game. What were they able to do so well in that game that they could transition to 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they did a really good job just, containing him and not giving up the big plays, especially in the ground game. And that's what you have to do with the Ravens. You can't let them get ahead of schedule. You have to keep them behind on first, second down. Put them in third and longs. Put in Lamar Jackson's hands to make plays from within the pocket. You can't give him running lanes or escape lanes when he drops back to pass, because that's when he will crush you. I know the Steelers will game plan to stop the quarterback runs, but I'm more concerned about when he drops back to pass and nothing's there and he takes off to run. So you just have to try to limit these explosive plays. I mean, there are going to be some in this game, but if you can limit them, then you have a good chance of trying to stop Lamar Jackson in that offense.
What about Mark Andrews? What is he doing so well? 5 touchdowns so far through the first 6 games they've played.
Well, I think that's a security blanket, right? I mean, we saw Big Ben and Heath Miller for all those years working together. And this is Lamar Jackson's Heath Miller. He's comfortable with him over the middle. Big tight ends, they're big body guys that you have a big catch range that you're comfortable throwing to. So I think the guy makes plays, and that's the one thing the Steelers have to stop: the deep crosses up the seam, and because that's Lamar Jackson's, that's his go-to guy.
All right, on the flip side, we saw the Steelers offense that first half, even that first drive they put together in Tennessee against the Titans. They are facing one of the better secondaries they have seen all season. So for the wide receivers, for Ben Roethlisberger, how tough of a task is it getting ready for these guys?
They're going to have their hands full. I mean, because the Ravens are number 1 with the most blitzes for us at PFF with 143, Arizona second. So you talk about getting after the quarterback. And now they just traded for Yannick Ngakoue, and then they have Calais Campbell, 2 guys that have played in the AFC Championship game with Jacksonville a few years back. So guys that are used to working together, and they dial up a ton of blitzes, Missy. So a lot to game plan for this week to make sure you protect Big Ben, get the ball out of your hand. I think the Steelers have done a great job in the previous weeks with the screen game, the wide receivers, the running backs, and that should slow down some of these blitzes that Baltimore loves to draw up.
A lot of people in Pittsburgh still talking about the 3 interceptions in the Titans game. Coach Tomlin said he's not worried about it. Some of them were calculated decisions. What do you make of that performance when we knew coming in Ben was so careful with the football, only 1 interception?
Well, I think things like that happen. At the end of the half, he's trying to make a play and you throw one up there. But it's a great learning experience. Anytime you could come away from a game like that, make a few mistakes you wish you could have back, and come away with a win, that's huge, because now it just helps you get that much better heading into the next week. And I think, knowing Ben and the competitor that he is, he's harder on himself than anyone. So I know he's taking it personal and probably going to try to clean that stuff up, because he's been playing very efficient this year. And hey, a few forced passes downfield, I think Tomlin will live with that as long as Ben continues to be himself, make those big plays, but also just execute the offense. A really good team around Ben this year, so he doesn't have to feel like he has to do it all.
All right, Bruce, thanks as always for your time. We are most certainly looking forward to Sunday in Baltimore.
Man, division game, Missy. I mean, this is what it's about, the Ravens and the Steelers, so I can't wait. Good luck.
All right, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. It is time now for our Keys to the Game, presented by your neighborhood Ford store. All right, Prisuta, you get to go first. Give us your key to Sunday in Baltimore.
Well, you've heard me talking about how I think they can exploit the secondary and work the receivers and maybe throw some deep balls when the Ravens go zero coverage. You're going to have to protect first. And not just the offensive line, but I think this is a big James Conner game, picking up blitzes. They got to give Ben Roethlisberger time to take advantage of what might be available to him in this game. Now, he's doing a great job of getting the ball out quick, but the Ravens, they put all those guys up at the line of scrimmage for a reason. It's hard to tell who's coming from where. All you know is they are coming, particularly when you get on their side of the 50. They want to blow up the play. They want to cause a turnover. If they can get the ball out of the pocket, they have a chance to catch it and run with it. But first thing's got to be first, Missy.
All right, Moats, give us your key.
For me, man, it's the high stakes game of cat and mouse that we're going to see between Bud Dupree and TJ Watt trying to contain and ultimately get down Lamar Jackson. I think that both of those guys are going to have great opportunities when they're rushing the passer, and they're going to have opportunities to hit Lamar. The issue is getting him on the ground. We know Lamar is at his best when he's extending plays and when he's out the pocket. You're going to have to make sure that you keep him in the pocket, and you still don't want to compromise your rush. So you have to just finish it, man. Every time you're back there and you get your chance to hit him, bring him to the ground. Don't allow him to have that second and third chance opportunity.
And the only tandem from the same team with 5+ sacks each so far through the season. Pomp, give us your key to Steelers versus Ravens.
I think, Missy, first and foremost, containing Lamar Jackson. Frustrate him a little bit. Keep him where he can't beat you in the run and using his legs. That's big. I agree with Mike about the offensive line on the other side. The Steelers have got to open up some holes for James Conner, but they also have to be aware of who's coming and where, and that is James Conner's responsibility or whomever's in there to pick it up. And I think Conner's done a good job at blitz pickup in the last several games. And to me, another key is scoring early, taking the lead, and making them come to you. I think that was essential last week, and it gives yourself some cushion in case they make a response. Limiting big plays would help too. That 73-yarder last week in the Tennessee game was killer. They had them contained with no momentum. One bad play can lead to that. They have to minimize those plays.
All right, guys, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited for Sunday to get here. It is hot in the kitchen, as Coach Tomlin likes to say. So thanks so much for joining me today on the Matchup Show presented by Power Home Solar. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you here next week at 4.